What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Faithful Phanatics Show. We are live here on Dsm Media's Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter channels. Guys, first and foremost, we appreciate each and every one of you that tune in and watch the show. But if you want to be interactive throughout today's show, if you want to be interactive throughout any of our shows, make sure to check out the YouTube link specifically. It is the best spot. It's the only spot for you to get your comments pulled up here on the screen with your host. I'm one half of them, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Hop in the comments like my man Darius. Don't know what he's drinking or smoking this early in the morning. But he's on it this morning. He's on it.
Let's go.
Serenading the chat. But yeah, guys, like I said, we appreciate all of you guys, obviously. But make sure you do us a favor. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's free. It's YouTube. It's like every other YouTube channel you're subscribed to. And it's the best spot you can catch all of our content throughout the week. What's going on, man?
Yes, sir. That's big facts. I know my man Darius. He's been up since like 2 a.m. Our brother Remy. He had his first baby last night. So congrats to Remy if you're out there, Pastor Rems. Nonetheless, maybe that's why Darius is all juiced up. I saw him texting around 1:55 this morning. Congrats. So happy Wednesday, man. It's the day before July 4th, Independence Day. Nonetheless, I'm feeling the juice. I'm about to have a pretty good weekend. Got some friends coming up, so I'm excited. But yeah, man, talk some Sixers, talk some fightings last night. That was an impressive dub. Trey Turner bouncing back, coming back from the injury for real now. And of course, just everything else going on in Philadelphia. We got championship aspirations, so there's a lot to get into there as well, my man.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We can kind of wrap up today's show with that topic, with that tweet. And just you guys can think on it throughout the show. In order, if you want to rank, doesn't matter. Give us your reasons, your explanations in the comments. Which team is closest to a championship? I put out a tweet last night because I've seen a lot of people talk about it. I've seen our man Phil put out a tweet. I think he did it on his show. WIP was tweeting about it. I think everybody's talking about the order in which these teams are closest to winning a championship right now today. So drop your thoughts, drop your comments on what you think about that as well. We'll wrap up the show with that. But let's start with more Sixers talk, man, because obviously that's where the bulk of the excitement, the enjoyment is coming from right now. Who are we getting for Buddy Hield? That's going to be a long domino effect, I think, man. Obviously, I don't know if you guys saw the article. I sent it to Scott. I mentioned it to Scotty earlier. Basically the thought, the idea, I feel like these things never actually transpire, but just a little 4 or 5 team, no big deal. Sign and trade swap where the Sixers would bring in, I forget who they said from the Warriors, who, since it was a sign and trade, could ultimately immediately be flipped for a trade alongside Paul Reed and other salary cap shedding to go get a guy like Kevin Huerter from Sacramento, go get a Karis LeVert from Cleveland, go get whoever the Sixers were interested in, obviously, right now. But we have a couple other names to get to. But, I don't think – like, obviously, Buddy Hield would play a part in that, but I don't think it's a sign and trade Buddy Hield for player X or Y.
So would that be like him going to the Warriors or like in return?
Let me go try to find it real quick because I don't want to, like, misinterpret or mislead what they were saying on the show. But
I wonder if it was Moses Moody. Was that the?
No. It was like I'm being dead serious. It was a dude I've never heard of.
Interesting.
Like Stanford. Yeah. So hold on, I'm just scrolling through. All right, here it is. So there, So Buddy Hield sign and trade could turn into a 5-team mega deal between the Sixers, Warriors, T-Wolves, Mavericks, and Hornets. John Hollinger notes. If the Golden State Warriors send Gui Santos, know him, Scotty? Gui, Gui Santos, to Philadelphia and sign second-round pick Quentin Post to a rookie minimum deal, that leaves them about $14 million under the tax apron for Buddy Hield. But the only way I can see to import him at that salary is to incorporate Hield and Kyle Anderson into the same sign and trade that sent Klay Thompson outbound, turning it into a 5-team mega deal between those teams. Why Santos? Philadelphia acquiring him into cap space would mean that the Sixers could aggregate him into a trade immediately. That perhaps would allow them to combine his salary and Paul Reed's to acquire a player not attainable with Reed's salary alone, such as Cleveland's Karis LeVert or Sacramento's Kevin Huerter. Now, not that those two names are, actually available. Not that that's anything the Sixers are looking into. that was just something thrown out there. And obviously, we as Sixers fans love to look into each and every little rumor out there, man.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because the name, it's neither of those guys that come to my mind that I wonder about. It's actually Bogdanovich in Atlanta that I wonder about. Like, is that something that maneuver could work in your favor? Because Bogdanovich from Atlanta, I think I always get I think he's Bogdan.
That's Bogdan, yeah, and then there's
Bogdanovich.
Yeah. And there's
Get used to saying that name. Try it, but
correct.
I think he could start as shooting guard for us, right?
Absolutely.
Like, and then you can just maybe move like Kelly Oubre and Paul George to like that hybrid 4 role and go with the starting lineup like that. But that is interesting. I mean, even Kevin Huerter or Karis LeVert, I'm not like saying no to those guys either. I just am thinking of fit wise, but Karis LeVert off the bench in like a 6-man type of role would be crazy.
But also Kevin Huerter sliding in that 2 spot. I know he's coming off.
He's got some height too.
Right. He had what injury did he have last year? I don't want to say that. He missed a lot of time with Sacramento last year. I don't know if it was an ACL or what it was, but he did miss a lot of time with the Kings last year.
Yeah, he ended up going out for season, I do believe.
Well, I forget what it was, but either one of those, obviously, even Hunter from Atlanta could slide in as an athletic 4 for this team as well. So
now let me ask you this. At that point, though, like when you look at those other players, and I'm just asking a question here. I'm curious what your thought is, but Buddy Hield versus like a Kevin Huerter, or like, would you rather have Kevin Huerter or have like a Karis LeVert has like a dynamic skill set, I feel, where he can score on his own, one-on-one. So it is interesting, but he also has like some overlapping qualities, I feel, that Kelly Oubre has. So I don't know. It's interesting. Like Buddy Hield, for all of that work, do you just keep Buddy Hield?
Right. I think that's a good point that you bring up, because it's something that I mentioned to you before the show. And by the way, the city could not handle this. I feel like physically, mentally, the city could not handle.
It would be destroyed. I mean,
you can't handle back-to-back parades. And it's something that could possibly happen this very year. And
can't even handle one parade.
Yeah. Let's be honest, man. But we were talking about, and I've seen Scotty was kind of joking. I don't know if he was joking. Maybe he was being a little serious. That he's getting a little not impatient, but let's make some more moves. Let's fill out this roster. Let's get to it. And I've seen some Sixers fans on Twitter, complaining at the fact that we haven't made a move since 2 nights ago. What is going on? And I think it's interesting how to open up free agency, almost every other team, was waiting on that Paul George domino to fall. They were waiting on the Sixers, basically, right? And the Sixers go out and they make about 4 moves the first night, and they're owning free agency. And now there's been a couple other moves, but the league itself isn't all that busy right now, and the Sixers aren't. And I think it's because when you talk about Buddy Hield, what is Buddy Hield's market? And I think Daryl Morey's kind of waiting to see what the market on some of these players are before he goes and drops that next domino, because you sent me the tweet the other day of Gary Trent Jr. Gary Trent Jr. is not expected to receive the high-end mid-level exception. Well, that can open up the door for the Sixers to swoop in and get him. What is a guy like Buddy Hield's market? If you're Daryl Morey, instead of just throwing an offer at Buddy Hield, do you allow Buddy Hield and his agent to gauge interest from the league? And if they think that his market is X, we think it's Y, the league's saying it's somewhere in the middle. That allows Daryl Morey to negotiate better with a Buddy Hield if they wanted to bring him back, or if they wanted to, go ahead and sign and trade him and open up cap space for in the near future.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a ton of sense. And it's funny you say that, because I came to you before the show and I like caught myself in the middle of saying it to you. And I think that might be the difference between us and some of the other people.
Yeah, exactly.
We think about what we're about to say on here before we come on here and say it straightforward, because that probably would have sounded like somebody that I would be annoyed by if I said that on air. But yeah, I had to like talk myself back down to earth, because free agency just started on Sunday.
Right. And
trying to bring myself back to earth.
They've made 4 very good moves so far, and drafted a guy at 16 we really like. So like,
exactly. And we can't afford to overpay for a Buddy Hield, right? To bring him back, or even like a Kyle Lowry, like who's getting interest apparently from the Phoenix Suns. We can't afford to pay more than a veteran minimum for him. So you do have to kind of see and weigh these things out and kind of wait it out in a sense. But I did see Campaign got arrested and used like a fake name. So I guess I'm assuming he's not coming back.
Terry Johnson. Speaking of Terry, where the hell's Terry at in the comments?
Seriously. But no, it is interesting to see how it's playing out. And I did hear like you have to wait until like maybe July 6th for another like situation. I'm not, like you said the other day, we're not like financial guys in the NBA as far as the cap and the moratoriums and stuff like that. No. But apparently July 6th, I believe it was, the moratorium, whatever it's called, ends, and that creates another avenue for like restricted free agents to be signed at that point. So there is another like deadline coming up that things are going to change a little bit more. And
I had no idea.
Apparently it has something to do with the first and second apron with restricted free agents. So take that for what it's worth. I'm not going to try to make that make sense for you. Just know
I feel like
July
I'm being
6th
serious.
is a significant
I feel
date.
like I need to take like a college course on just all of this.
Well, because it's constantly changing too, like every year, right?
Or I'm gonna be honest, when I throw out, when I'm like, oh, they don't want to go above the second apron if you're the Clippers. They don't want to go above the first apron if you're the Sixers. I'm not really exactly sure what the fuck that even means. So
I just take it as like first apron hard penalty, second apron hard ass penalty. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what I assume. But what did you I wanted to get your thoughts about Nicholas Batum, man. What did you think about him going back to the Clippers, dude?
You see that thing on your finger right there on camera? See that thing right there? That little shiny thing? Yeah, that's why Nicholas Batum's back out west. I'm guessing, okay? I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously. But we know when he was traded from the Clippers out west to come across to the East Coast to Philadelphia, not exactly to some people, you know, not having the openness, the most open of minds, openness, that's a word, sure. The most open of minds, they might not want to embrace Philadelphia. And we know when he got traded, it took him the longest time to come over to Philly. And then he played a game or two, and then he was out due to personal and family reasons. And then he came back, and there were rumors and reports that about his wife not really wanting to be here. So I don't think it's to anybody's surprise that he ended up back out west. Now, to go to the Clippers is interesting. Also, I don't know what the fuck the Clippers are doing themselves, but
they're going to get like
back to that specific team out west is kind of odd. I don't know. But yeah, we see.
No, I do. I thought it was interesting, and he's going to play 2 years. It's a 2-year deal.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I know, because at first it was possibly retirement, and now.
Do you think Joel not playing on Team France had anything to do? Like they seem to have been close. Like maybe if they played in France, it's not that big of a deal. At the end of the day, he's a great connector piece, a great glue guy, but it's not that big of a deal. I'm not trying to make it bigger than what it is, but it was just interesting to kind of see that play out like that. But
correct.
Nicholas Batum heads back out west.
I mean, I don't think we can understate how, I don't want to call it a huge loss, but I don't think we can understate the importance of Nico Batum last year.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, Nico Batum's going to connect me to another person that Sixers Twitter has been blowing up with that I'm going to put a stop to right now. But anyway, they were talking I've seen a lot of tweets about how Nicholas Batum's importance in the offense of being that entry passer to Joel, right? And when you look at this roster, Paul George, Eric Gordon, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, no one's a great passer.
That is a good point.
Getting the ball to Embiid on the block, those tough angle passes, etc., where Batum excelled. I get that. However, with Nico Batum's departure, it has now turned Sixers fans absolutely out of their minds, because now they're looking at a potential 4 guard that doesn't exist, but sure, a 4 guard, a 6'10" 4 guard who can just focus on playing defense and facilitate and get Joel the rock, and that is Ben Simmons being bought out by the Brooklyn Nets and potentially coming back to Philadelphia. People were posting the article clippings of, Joel, his comments saying that's the one that got away. Ben saying last year if he was to ever be traded again, he would want to go back to Philly. Man. White noise, brother. White noise. The dude doesn't like the game of basketball. He likes the life that comes with the game. He likes the money. He likes the fame. He likes the girls. He likes LA. He likes this. He likes that. How many games has Ben Simmons even played in since he left Philly and forced his way out in one of the most horrific scenes we've ever seen in Philadelphia sports before? I'm pretty sure he's played under 50 games in the last 3 years, Scotty. And in doing so, he hasn't shot or made a three, and he shoots under 50% from the free throw line still to this day. And some people legitimately would want him back right now.
What was his big beef that he left? I can't even remember. Like, I know it just kind of was like a built up thing, like it picked up momentum after the Atlanta series. But like, what was it?
It was Doc and Joel's comments about, when they asked Doc if Ben could be a point guard on a championship team, etc. Is
that real?
I don't know.
Tony Bradley.
But if you want to comment and further give your thoughts on the Ben Simmons idea that some people have in their heads.
Yeah, obviously I brought it up in like a joking manner on the last show, I believe, or the show before that, whatever. When we were talking about the fit with Paul George and how you don't really need like shooting from your 4 spot, right? You just need rebounding defense. And if they can be a facilitator or a passer, even better. But it's all great when you think of it as an idea, right? Like, it's great as an idea, like this epiphany. But in reality, Ben Simmons coming back to Philadelphia, let's say he doesn't shoot the shot again or doesn't go out with a layup again, right? And it's just going to be drama. It's going to be constant drama. And I think the fact that we've gotten Doc Rivers out of here, right? That was one step. We've gotten James Harden out of here, other drama. We've gotten Ben Simmons out of here, drama. I think at that point, you kind of just need to keep moving forward, right? Like, not taking steps backwards. And that's my biggest thing with it. Honestly, at the end of the day, if I knew that he could play consistently and if he had shown us something in Brooklyn, maybe I would. You know what I mean? Maybe it would be worth the hassle. But the fact that he is let's see how many games he played last year.
He's played 56 since 2020.
15 games last season, bro. And then 42. Yeah, like you said, 50, 57? So
it's the same thing with Ben Simmons today as it was when we were talking fit with Ben Simmons in Philadelphia. The idea of Ben Simmons is phenomenal. He is the prototype. He is how you would want to build a basketball player. If you could manufacture one in a lab, 6'10", athletic as hell, high IQ, passing off the charts, rebounding, maybe the game's best defender, can guard all 5 positions. But we know this movie. We've watched it. There's nothing that's going to change. There's nothing. And I love shout out my guy Dives, Chris Dibler. Worked with him for a while to paint a line. Now it's OP Sports. He tweeted, "I'd be extremely happy if the Sixers could end up with any of these forwards going forward. Caleb Martin, Ben Simmons, they shouldn't be in the same paragraph. One dude doesn't want to play the game.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's odd.
Quite frankly, I don't even know why I'm
been through this, dude.
Yeah, I just can't believe midway through 2024, the Sixers just signed Paul George, added that third guy to Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, and there are literal fans, real people that would want Ben Simmons back.
Yeah, I really don't understand it, man. Because when you think, even Kyle Anderson, right? Like, the Warriors get Kyle Anderson. I didn't want him on the team. I don't want to watch that broke-ass jump shot. And I don't want to watch him not shoot either. I don't want a non-shooting motherfucker on the roster. When you can go out and you can find a guy that can at least go and make a layup with confidence or go and shoot a three-pointer with confidence from the corner. Like, you can find these guys. We're not that desperate yet. No. Right? Like, if we were pinned back against the wall, no picks.
Ever.
Like, it would be different if you have to fill a roster and you got to get, quality players. But even then, like I said, it's just still not even worth the hassle that it presents, man. Because at the end of the day, we've mentioned several names that you can go out and get a DFS. Yeah, DFS. That's the obvious one at this point right now is he would be a better fit. At the end of the day, I get it. He doesn't have like the passing that Ben Simmons has, but he can guard the 3 and the 4, and he can shoot the 3 ball. At the end of the day, he's willing to shoot the 3 ball. And that's good enough to have mixed with Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George, right? Like Kelly Oubre is a average at best 3-point shooter, but that's good enough with those 3. But you can't have just a guy that's out there just setting screens.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to point directly at specific people that I respect and, love working with and talking to and engaging. I just don't like. First of all, are we forgetting how the dude left the city? Are we forgetting all of that? Are we forgetting when he first came back, how it was received, everything? And it's like a few short years go by, and it's like no one wants to care. Like, let me ask you a question. If James Harden wasn't going to be 38 years old, in 2 years, would you guys want James Harden back? Or Flyers fans, would you want Cutter Gauthier playing for the Flyers after he forced his way out because he never wanted to play for this city? Would you guys want him back? No, you wouldn't.
Right.
So I don't quite understand how it's a realistic possibility to some people that Ben Simmons returns in a Sixers uniform. But this is spot on.
Why would he want to? You know what I mean?
I know. I have no idea, bro. Like Nick Castellanos is already in your house. You got to find a new crib. Just stay up 95, stay up that direction, or go out west, or just stop playing basketball because you don't like to play the game anyway. That when it's the summer and people can post clips of you in an empty gym shooting that thing from wherever, although you'll never do it in live action. But that's neither here nor there. I think this is spot on. I think that's exactly what Daryl Morey is waiting to do. That's why I want people to remain patient. Scotty, remain patient, brother.
I know. I had to bring myself back.
I think that's exactly what's going on. He's not going to just offer Buddy Hield this. He's not going to offer Gary Trent this. He's not going to offer the Nets a package without seeing what is actually being floated out there.
And I think rightfully so, man. There are better options than DFS out there. Like there are. Are they available? Do we have the resources to make them happen? But I do think like with the resources we have, you have to be patient. If you are able to do one of these trades that can create extra cap, does that give you access to Lauri Markkanen? I don't know, right? Like I don't know the financials. I don't even know if that's possible anymore financially to bring him in. I believe his salary is at $18 million for just this upcoming season. But then I look over at the Celtics, man, and they're just giving out $1 billion to their starters. So I don't really know where the cap ends in the NBA these days.
Yeah, brother, I have no idea.
Derek White got $100 million, and Jason Tatum got $315 million.
Tatum's the richest man in NBA history. They paid Derek White, which no one thought they could do. They're somehow bringing back Luke Cornett and Xavier Tillman. Like they're signing everybody.
Yeah, they're literally signing everyone. So, it'll be interesting to see what the Sixers do. I'm just looking through like some of the remaining free agents, but is there I know we're talking about power forwards right now to round out the starting lineup, but once again, I'm just curious, no talk about a point guard. We just roll with Maxey. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of.
I think you just have to let him develop, right?
Yeah, I think he did last year, man. I think I'd have to go back, but I think did we or did we not praise Tyrese Maxey's assist to turnover ratio?
Yeah,
90% of the year, and he got up over that 5 assist mark. I mean, in year one, and that's with again outside of Joel Embiid, and Joel missed a shit ton of time. Look at who Maxey had around him last year. Look at the lack of 3-point shooting at times. Look at guys who are no longer here who lacked being able to put the ball in the basket at times. And now you hopefully have a healthy Joel. You bring in 3-point shooting. You bring in a star in Paul George. Now things change, and Tyrese could average 6.5 assists, 7 assists this year.
No, I do tend to agree with you. And then obviously, if you bring Kyle Lowry back, that gives you a little bit of insurance with like a point
Right.
guard or an offense
Right.
organizer, whatever
And
you want to
Scotty,
call it. But
I don't want to get too far ahead of myself when it comes to this upcoming Sixers season because, like, while it's July now, it doesn't feel all that far away. Summer League starting up, the roster just got posted. I'm super super excited. We keep saying I can't wait to get this team on the floor and see them, and it's true.
yeah,
But like, we're gonna have over a month of football and Eagles football and Phillies playoff baseball before we
yeah,
even get a regular season game of the
yeah,
Sixers in. And it's like I still can't wait to see that team, man, because like everyone I even go back to the Jared McCain pick, the selection and the just discourse of being undersized, etc. And it's like, brother, we had Kyle Lowry starting and playing 37, 38 minutes in playoff games next to Tyrese Maxey last year in a lineup with Tobias Harris. Like, do you guys not recall that? And we thought in the moment we could compete. They did technically compete each and every night with the New York Knicks. They didn't get blown out of the water every game. They competed each and every game of those 6 with those two in your starting lineup. And yet the discourse of all these additions this offseason is that we're nowhere closer. And it blows my
yeah.
mind.
It's
But then
interesting.
again,
It
the
is
same people
interesting.
tell me the 6'10" point forward is going to be the answer.
It's interesting.
All right, let me throw some names at you, man. Let me throw some
Yeah,
names before
yeah.
transition. And obviously we could talk. We haven't even touched on Paul George himself since Monday. And that's just the focal point of everything the Sixers are doing this offseason. But we talked a little bit about the DFS trade. I know you said he's not the number one option in terms of just skill or fit or player, but he might be the most reasonable where the
Yeah,
Sixers can get him and the best option that way. Let me
yeah.
ask you: would you rather have a DFS trade and he slides into your 4 or 3, whatever the case may be, or would you rather play a little smaller with PG and Kelly in your starting lineup and Gary Trent Jr. become the starting 2 guard for the Sixers?
Man, that one's tough because it's like Gary Trent Jr. is the better player for my money. He's only 25, but
He can do a lot more offensively. I'll tell you that.
yeah,
But
DFS gives you length, size, so
and
it
this
is
is a great point. This is a very good point when you're looking at who you have to get past, what that roadblock is in front of you on your way to a finals, which is the ultimate goal. How do you stack up? And
think of it like this, though. Like, if we were to play the Celtics, just hypothetically here, I'm thinking of their lineup, and I'm thinking of Al Horford. Like, is Al Horford going to be there?
right.
Is he playing there? I don't know. If I don't know any of the rumors, like I don't know like what his plans are after winning the championship. But if they end up having to go with like Kristaps Porzingis at center, for example, if Al Horford gets moved to the bench or whatever, if he retires, it would be Embiid and Kristaps. Tatum would be at the 4, so you would have Paul George or Kelly Oubre guarding him, and then Jaylen Brown, you'd have Paul George or Kelly Oubre guarding him. So then you would have Derek White and Drew Holiday versus Maxey and Gary Trent Jr. And yeah, I do feel you because the
Is
rebounding.
it possible at all? Again, we are not the
Derek White and Drew Holiday are great rebounders for guards. So
we are not the financial people of the pod of Philly sports content creation. We saw the tweet that Gary Trent Jr. is not expected to even receive the high-end MLE, which I believe is like 12.2, 12.4 million or something. Maybe that means he goes for the low MLE. I don't know which slot Kelly's taking up, but you would have 2 of them, right? Like they have 2 mid-level checks to give out. And all the money with how a sign and trade with who we would bring in from the Warriors along with Paul Reed to get DFS. Is it possible at all to grab both? Again, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but money wise, if you have a sign and trade option where you open up some space and that allows DFS to sign and Gary Trent Jr. takes the low end MLE, does that work? I have no idea. And again, I think I'm living a pipe dream here. I don't think the Sixers are adding two of my favorite targets still out on the board, but just thinking, if it can happen. But
if you get, I'm just trying to think here. It would take multiple things to happen, but if you could clear cap space, get Gary Trent Jr., and then I wonder if there is like an avenue where they could just go after somebody in free agency at that point. Maybe they're not as good as DFS, but maybe you just kind of take a little bit of a sacrifice there.
Well, there's another former Sixer people have been talking about bringing back, the homie.
Who? PJ Tucker? Is that who we're talking about?
Dario Saric.
Oh, Dario Saric. Okay. Oh, my bad. Yeah. I saw he just had a triple-double the other day. Yeah. He's interesting, man, because he's a good passer. He obviously can space the floor. He can rebound. It would just be the lack on defense, but you do got guys around him that can defend. Yeah. So it would be interesting. I'm more cool with him coming back than Ben Simmons for sure. Is he a free agent though? Is he like an unrestricted?
I'm that's a good point. I don't know if it would have to be a sign and trade with Phoenix. I saw a couple different people yesterday throw him out there. I'm not sure if he is. Let me see.
He's interesting for sure. Yeah, Dario Saric. Wonder if you could swing that because you could probably get him for much less, and then maybe
now it says he's a UFA, unrestricted free agent.
I would be open to it, man. I would.
8 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, 2.5 assists per game at age 30 last year with Golden State.
How do you feel about this though? Like I know TR says you can't go small against Boston, you can't go small against the Magic.
Well, can I say something with all due respect? The Sixers beat the Magic in 5 regardless.
Yeah, that's how I feel about that as well.
I don't give. I know they're a younger team. They took the Cavs to 7. They're going to be back in the playoff hunt next year. They added KCP. It's a good fit. They're big. They're defensive. Whatever. Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George beat them in 5 games. Sorry, hate to break it to you. They literally couldn't score 90 points against the Cleveland Cavaliers last year. You're just sorry. Hate to break that to you.
The Celtics are so tough. Yeah, it's interesting, man. Because how much of a concern is it for Kelly Oubre or Paul George to go into the season playing the 4?
Well, Paul George did play the 4 for the Clippers a lot last year. However, you had Kawhi Leonard playing the 3. We don't have Kawhi Leonard playing.
It's a little different, yeah. Right.
So maybe that is why a 4 is a little bit more of the target. Then
how big is
the next thing, man? You get the Knicks as well, right? The Knicks as well because they are a larger, more athletic team. I know they lost Hartenstein, but all of their wings and guards are like 6'5", 6'6", and above.
Well, the interesting thing with the Knicks that I want to find out is like, what's the plan with Julius Randle? Like, what is their starting lineup? Are they going Brunson? Oh my goodness, my mind's slipping here.
Bridges,
Brunson, Bridges, Hart,
vice versa, probably maybe Hart 2, Bridges 3.
Who am I forgetting though?
OG
who am I forgetting? OG is who I was forgetting.
And then a center.
And then Robinson. Julius Randle's not coming off the bench for the Knicks, like
right? Are you starting small? I'll tell you this: OG Anunoby's not coming off the bench for you,
right? So, with that contract,
and Josh Hart doesn't start. And it's
Josh
Jalen
Hart
Brunson,
seems
Mikal
like the odd man out.
OG, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson.
Mitchell Robinson, yeah, I feel like he would have to start.
He has to.
So who comes on? I guess Hart is the odd man out there, and then DiVincenzo and Hart off the bench.
That's what they would do.
Yeah,
and they'd be a very big physical team then as well. So you have to.
You know what I feel when I look at that, and I know he's coming off the bench. But I would much rather Julius Randle be out there in that lineup than Josh Hart rebounding and hustling and all that. He's a much better connector piece than Julius Randle. Like, I'm not saying he's a better player, but for this team specifically, It's interesting. I'm interested to see if they try to trade Randall.
What the Julius Randle dynamic does to the Knicks, because that is the point, right? That
Yeah.
that's why they became so annoying and so connected last year, right? When you had DiVincenzo and Hart and Deuce McBride and all these dudes coming off the
energy guys,
big time shots and hustling, and it's like Randall is a big physical boy. He's going to grab boards.
Can slow it
But
down.
he's not an energy board guy. Like he's just like he's not going to be out there. And like shot selection too. How many bad shots is Julius Randle going to take away from other guys in that lineup?
It's interesting.
We already did it. Yeah. Don't be one of the people, Gint. Don't fucking do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Gant always liked a little bend. I remember Gant.
I'll say it for the last time this show, okay? The idea, it's right there. 6'10", former All-NBA defender. It's right there. The idea, the thought of that dude, the prototype, is amazing. It's beautiful. It's exactly what you would want.
He's all in.
He doesn't play basketball.
Oh, man.
You're a manager at Dick's. You coach younger kids, and you've probably played more basketball games in the last 3 years than Ben Simmons has, being paid millions of dollars to play basketball games.
He wants the whole crew back in there. Oh, man.
Control, dude.
Shout out to Gant, man. Sixers lifer. He loves all former Sixers, apparently, dog.
He's such an asshole, dude.
The interesting thing with Gary Trent Jr., and I feel like he just doesn't look it when you watch him play. Maybe it's his arm length, but he is 6'5". So
good point.
6'5", what? Maxi's around 6'2"-ish. Gary Trent 6'5", Kelly Oubre like 6'7"-ish, and Paul George 6'8", 6'7", 6'9", anywhere in between there. And then Embiid 7+ plus. So I don't know, man. I guess the thought that I'm getting here as far as like size and like matching up is like when you have such like much better matchups like Paul George rather than Tobias Harris, like does it matter as much? Like make them play to our style. Do you know what I mean? Like if we're going small ball with Kelly Oubre and Paul George at the 3 and 4, then make them match up with us. Like if they have a big 4 in that's rebounding, he's not going to be able to guard Kelly Oubre or Paul George. So, like, I think we're, like, stuck in this, like, Ben Simmons, like, Tobias Harris world of, like, just horrible fits.
Yeah, we're haunted.
If you have a great fitting team, that's all that really
haunted by it. But, like, I was just laughing for a second because it's exactly what I do, right? And I've said it multiple times. If you have Paul George at your 3 or 4 instead of Tobias Harris last year, you beat the New York Knicks. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just – you're not losing games.
They can out-rebound us, but we still would beat them.
Right. You know what I mean? You don't lose that series, and then you play the inexperienced Pacers who had some injuries, whatever. But
you'd have to sign one, Gint. That's what we're talking about, like Gary Trent Jr. or trading assets for DFS, so on and so forth, like options. Right. If we sign a shooting guard, then maybe you move them down to the 3 or 4. Right. That's the idea.
Exactly. But we just keep saying, like, oh, Paul George instead of Tobias Harris, and it's just like such an undersell as to what Paul George still is at this point of his career. Like he's a what is he? He's a fucking he's a 50-40-90 guy last year. Okay, 42% 3-point shooter. I think 43% off the catch and shoot from deep. We know that he can create. We know what he can do. We know his athleticism is still there at the rim. We know how he, whatever. Still good on both ends of the floor. All-star, like future Hall of Famer. And we're like, oh, well, we put him in place of Tobias Harris. Like, no, bro, it's not just that. Like, it's not just you replaced a guy for Tobias Harris. You inserted a legitimate star.
That's what I'm saying, man.
For Tobias Harris.
That's what I'm saying.
Any other team, look, is Paul George good enough to be the Batman on a championship team? No, I don't think he ever has been, and he's definitely not at age 34 right now. I think Paul George is good enough to be a number 2 on most teams if they have a legitimate star, and Paul George is your number 3.
Yeah, I do agree, man. It's interesting just thinking about that, and that's why like maybe the matchups aren't what we should be worried about. Just worrying about getting guys that complement one
Right.
another, space the
Right.
floor around Joel
And
Embiid,
I've
make
seen
things
other
easier
people on
for him.
television talk about it, bro. It's not going to take long for these three to
Yeah.
get meshed together. Like it's going to be so seamless. I do, before we move on to some Phillies talk here, because they had a big win last night. Trey Turner is heating up. There was a comment, and I forget who made it. You might know who made it, but someone out there put out the idea that the Sixers have three players better than anyone on the Knicks roster. And I love the comment. A, because it's going to rile Knicks fans up. And two, it's almost true. And here's where people are going to come for me, right?
Yeah.
Joel, obviously, like let's stop that right there. I know Knicks fans tried to get into that last year. Let's fucking stop the Joel Embiid versus Jalen Brunson conversation. It's Joel Embiid way, way, way down here is Jalen Brunson, okay? Secondly, Paul George is better than Jalen Brunson. Hate to break that one to you. Paul George, Jalen Brunson. I'll still give Brunson the edge over young Tyrese Maxey for now, just for right
Interesting.
now.
Interesting. So you think Paul George is better than Maxey?
I think overall, as a basketball player, Paul George is better than Tyrese Maxey. Overall, if you had to rank your top 25 players, not by much. And I'm also I'm being a little short. I'm also going by a little bit of experience, right?
Like I'm a Maxey stan. I'm realizing that.
I
like him in my head, I'm just like Maxey over everybody.
Hey, there were moments where Tyrese Maxey was better than Jalen Brunson in that series. So when you realize what Brunson really did over
that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, if you are like for the Knicks, Brunson is better fit. Like, you know what I mean? Better than Paul George in that sense. Like, fit wise, as far as what he does for the Knicks, but as far as like a wing that can do it all in the NBA, I know what you mean. Like size, all of that included, defense, everything that they're contributing to the team. And when you talk about fit, especially next to Embiid, I mean, yeah. So it is an interesting conversation because you definitely have, three of the top four players in the conversation. Like that is something we can definitively say here. So at the end of the day, whether you think Maxey's better than Brunson or Paul George is better than Brunson,
I also think it's about
only one player in that combo.
Right. I think it's about perception around the league, and I think to Gin's point here, that is the perception, right? Like I do not think that if the Sixers offer this to the Knicks, they'd say yes. Whereas if the Knicks flipped it, Daryl Morey might say yes. I think it's just perception around what Jalen Brunson is.
Is Brunson? You think? I don't know. Is Brunson? I guess he shot the three ball better last year. Like, is he a better fit around Joel Embiid than Tyrese Maxey? Like, it's just a question. I don't know that. Like, Tyrese Maxey can play off the ball. He spaces the floor better. He hits the three at a more efficient clip. He's faster. Can get in the lane.
Yeah,
I'm not saying Maxey's better than Brunson. I'm just saying Maxey might be better for the Embiid-led Sixers.
The point I love the comment is because it's like not all that far off, and it's like it's just I just love like what Knicks fans thought they accomplished for like 4 days after the Mikal Bridges trade, and, like the pedestal they put themselves on, and we're competing with Boston, and there's no one else even close, and now like we might have three players better than your number one option. That hurts. But
it's crazy. It is crazy. That would be a hell of a series, though. For sure.
Scotty, even when you look at Boston, and look, coming off banner number 18, we know they're lethal. I get it, right? And Jaylen Brown brings home the MVP while Tatum gets paid $315 million. They keep Derek White. Drew Holiday was one of their best players. Whatever. But I think if you just go down the list now with this addition and seeing how we could fill out the rest of this roster. When you're just talking about matching up, player for player, obviously they have to step up. Joel struggled against Boston in the past. He has to have answers for that, right? But like you're closer in that regard too, right? Like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday. I know they just want to chip. It doesn't sound like this should even be a conversation. I'm just saying player for player. Those three, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Paul George. Now they still have Kristaps Porzingis. They still have a Derek White. I know that. Just saying, You're a little closer in that
Yeah.
regard.
Yeah. They do present so many mismatches. That's why I do think maybe you just go all in to create your own mismatches and hope that your mismatches are bigger
I
than
think
theirs.
they already
Like,
exactly. You and I talked about it. They got so I don't want to use the term lucky, but the Dallas matchup was a bad one for Dallas. Okay, and I would love to see Boston in a 7-game series. And sounds stupid because we've seen it on multiple occasions, but now with a different roster, I'd love to see Boston against a dominant big with this current roster.
yeah,
Not the roster before
yeah,
where they had Robert Williams and Al Horford off the bench, etc. Kristaps
yeah,
Porzingis, Luke Cornett, and Al Horford are your big men. Okay.
yeah.
You add Paul George to this mix. Like, I'd love to see that dynamic now because they didn't have to face that at all in the
Yeah.
postseason.
All they
Outside
face is rim running bigs. That's
right,
all they face.
right.
Yeah, I do feel you on that. And I am interested to see. I'll be watching these matchups during the regular season closely as well, just to see, because I'm sitting here thinking about like Tyrese Maxey as well. And what they're going to throw Drew Holiday or Derek White at him. They could even throw Jaylen Brown on him if they're feeling froggy and want to throw Drew Holiday on Kelly or something like that. And it almost makes me think you kind of do want like a Gary Trent Jr. there at that 2 guard, man. Like, to give you another ball handling scoring option. Because like, imagine if Maxey is passing it to DFS and he's being guarded by like Drew Holiday or something. He's gonna be worthless, right? Like, I'm not saying they're gonna put Drew Holiday on DFS. I'm just thinking matchup wise here to have another guy that can get his own bucket is what I'm trying to say, because Kelly Oubre, he can get in the lane and get his own bucket, but very inconsistent from the 3-point line. It's interesting. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, right? Like, I don't know.
I do feel you. I do, because we can't. I think we've seen that movie before, right? We guys that excel in one area that we think is a good fit on this roster, but then they become unplayable for reason X in a playoff.
Yeah. Like, what if DFS is just cold from the 3-point line in the playoffs?
Right.
And now he's unplayable because of that, right? So
right. Or he's a legitimate option, a body to throw on Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. Maybe he makes himself more. We don't know. But to your point, I don't like. That's the thing. Like, Gary Trent Jr. is 6'5". Like, there's no you're not undersized at that position at that point. It's just can he D up in the biggest moments.
If you, let's say the offensive, the starting lineup isn't working out right now and you need some type of energy off the bench, who are you going to bring in to like get a bucket when Joel goes off the floor or when Maxey goes off the floor? Like, who's going to come off the bench and get that bucket as well?
How nice would it be if TikTok could just? How nice would it be if he could just be that this season? Like Jared McCain. Like, how
Jared
nice
McCain, I know, man. He could.
Come March, he's just grown into his own already, where he can be a viable bench piece for you, like, legitimately.
I think if they simplify things for him in a sense, like, don't try to force him into like the ball role just yet. You can work on it with him behind the scenes, developing him as a ball handler, the one-on-one abilities, but focus on what you're good at this season, right? Like, getting in passing lanes, playing tough physical defense on guards, and then hitting the 3 ball when you're wide open. Like, that's all you really need to focus on as a rookie in these minutes. So I think if Nick Nurse can kind of simplify things and get him ready defensively is the key to getting him in the lineup and getting him some minutes, because he could be that spark plug off the bench. You talk about like the Luke Kennards that we're looking at and different guys like that can really shoot it. He is a guy that can get hot and get hot quick. We've seen it, in college last year for Duke. He had some big games from the 3-point line. So it is interesting, man. He is kind of a forgotten piece that can get lost here, because is he going to be more like a Tyrese Maxey, or is he going to be more like a Jaden Springer? I lean more towards the Maxey side, but that you're asking a lot. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-star. I just mean his growth, his willing to develop, and his ability to show impact and signs for the team in a positive manner. But it's interesting, man. And they're far from done. these are all hypotheticals. They could come out of left field and make a trade for somebody that we're not even thinking about that
Scotty,
fits even
man,
better.
like I think that's the thing. People get so worried about bust draft picks, and we look at a Zaire Smith trade, and we look at Jaden Springer getting moved, and it's like you also don't have to look at it. I hope so. I hope you're 100% correct. Like that it's towards the maxi end of the spectrum, but like I look at a guy like Miles McBride that comes off the bench for the New York Knicks and just hits 2 or 3 threes in limited minutes and grabs a couple rebounds and is an energy guy.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that on a championship caliber team coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be like
I agree.
Guess what Jared McCain has that Jaden Springer doesn't have? A jump shot.
Yeah.
So that's the easiest thing to get you going in this league and if you can shoot the rock, there's a spot for you on most teams. And if you're athletic, if you bring energy, he's played on that level at Duke. He'll have a spot, man. But
even the like the Andrew Nimhards of the world, just different guys like that come in and make an impact. Christian Braun, right? We talk about him all the time here for some reason, but he was a big contributor in that run for the Denver Nuggets.
I mean,
and big contributor in a minimal way, if that makes sense.
And also places and styles matter, man. Like look at I know he was hurt last year, but look at what a Gabe Vincent provided for a Miami team that went on a finals
versus
run.
The Lakers.
Look at them with the Lakers. I get there were injuries last year for a large majority of it, but like Jared McCain could fit here. I know that sounds crazy and alien to us Sixers fans because it doesn't seem like guys fit like that here, and it's always someplace else. But
we never get that lucky.
But yeah, we'll be talking more Sixers in the coming days and next week, obviously. If we have time, if they do anything later today or whatever over the weekend, we'll try to get something out there for you guys, some reaction. Stay tuned. Also, if you know our man Brock Landis, we might be getting some Sixers work and other work in with him shortly in the coming weeks and coming months. But another topic to get into, man, on today's show. Spend a lot of time talking Sixers. Got to talk Phillies because why?
Yes, sir.
Well, they're still the best team in baseball, even with all these injuries. They're 56-29. The Braves lost last night. The Phillies win 6-4 in Chicago with Michael Mercado on the mound in his first start in his MLB career. He gives them 5 innings, one earned run baseball. Trey Turner hits 2 bombs, 1 out of Wrigley Field. Singles in another RBI. Phillies win, Braves lose, 9-game lead in the NL East. Currently, this is without Bryce. This is without Schwarber, and this is still without JT Realmuto. And this is also now with 2 guys. Yes, I know we were all excited to get Taijuan Walker out of the rotation, but now you lost his replacement. So now this is 2 starters technically on the IL as well. The Phillies are depleted. They're decimated by injuries, man. The All-Star break's right around the corner. The trade deadline seems like it's right around the corner. We just got to get there. Can they tread water? Can they stay afloat until then? The answer right now seems like yes. And you want to know why? The pitching, man. I get it. That Marlins series was ugly. They split there. They had to come back if the Ranger got beat up a little bit. Wheeler was clean until the 7th, and then the bullpen imploded. But if you look at that series, they split 2-2 with them, and they lost a game that they never should have with Zach Wheeler in the 7th, and then the bullpen. That's a 3-1 series win if that little implosion doesn't happen. I know that's a lot of ifs there, but should have been a 3-1 series lead at home. And now you go and take the first one in Wrigley versus the Cubs. They're still finding ways to win baseball games, even though things aren't pretty, man. Bryson Stott has to figure it out. Brandon Marsh can't hit lefties. Rojas and Dahl and Marchand and Stubbs, are all in the lineup with Merrifield, all on different nights. The lineup doesn't look pretty. Michael Mercado's throwing games. They're still finding ways, though, man.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you, man. And that's part of the identity of this team. And I think for a short period of time, you can get away with it, right? And you can win like this, especially when you do have guys like Trey Turner who can step up and be like he can be a superstar. Like we know who Trey Turner was before he got to the Phillies. It kind of gets underrated now because he's around guys like Bryce Harper and some of the other guys on this roster. Alec Boehm has come up in the recent years, but you do still have Boehm. You do still have Castellanos. You do still have some bats out there that can get you by, right? It might not win you the World Series, might not get you to the top of the league in an entire season, but for just a month, they can keep you afloat. And I think that's the point here, is what they've been able to do with this roster, and guys continue to step up. Guys unexpectedly continue to step up. You get a game from Mercado last night that I didn't know who he was going into that game, quite honestly. But he comes out, he gives you 5 innings, gives up what, 1 run, 2 runs,
yeah,
1 run, and then you give it to the bullpen. So guys are stepping up, man. I mean, you talk about JT going down. You had Marshawn come up. Now you got Stubbs in there. I know we've had some complaints about Stubbs. But you just got to find ways to win, man. And what it's going to do ultimately, why I do kind of like, you never like to see Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber go down. You don't want to see it, but it does build them. It makes them stronger for the long run down the stretch. God forbid anything happens in the postseason. Maybe it's not Bryce Harper that goes down. Maybe it's one of the other guys that cover the bases in the infield that you have to replace. And now you have other guys behind them that are ready to go. So you're just getting quality reps. They're going to get quality reps against great teams this month. And it's only going to make them stronger at the end of the day. The main thing, staying at the top of the division and just trying to stay at the top of the league, right? But mainly staying at the top of the division, staying ahead of the Atlanta Braves is really the main thing to focus on here.
It's the goal, man. It is the goal. And people before the season tried to tell me Matt Olson's a better first baseman than Bryce Harper. They try to tell me that Austin Riley is head and shoulders above Alec Boehm. They try to tell me that Trey Turner is not a top 3 shortstop in the league, and so yada 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 yada. And it's all white noise. I want to go back to this comment by Martian though, because I know he's joking because at the end of it, but like his first part, we don't need to talk Phillies because they're winning the chip, like what? But we do. Like this needs to be like. Misery loves company, and we as Philly fans, like we love, like listen, the comments and our topics and our tones are a lot different when things are negative. There's a lot more to bitch and complain about when things aren't going your way.
Yeah.
But we got to celebrate the highs too, man. Like when the Eagles go 10-0, we're on a high, and they should be talked about. That should be talked about just as much as the Sixers pissing us off. Now, it might make for better content, technically. It might be funnier to people when we're all riled up or arguing with people and this and that. However, when the Phillies are the best team in baseball, they need to be talked about every day.
Yeah, no, I do agree. When you got good things going on,
and that's why we're here. That's why we're here. You see that name at the bottom of the screen above Phanatics? That's why we're here. We're changing that concept, Scotty. We're changing that concept, and things are becoming more positive. Because to wrap up the show, I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about a tweet I put out last night. Because I've seen a lot of people talking about which Philadelphia team right now is closest to winning a championship between the Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, and Sixers. And I'll give you my list in order. I have the Phillies at 1, I have the Eagles at 2, I have the Sixers at 3, I have the Flyers at 4. Flyers, I'm excited for their future. Matvei Michkov's coming over, I should say. Signed a 3-year deal. Danny Briere, Jonesy loading up for the 2025 season. Playoff hockey will be back shortly in Philadelphia, but not yet. The Sixers, I think, have put themselves into contention for number 2. Like I think the Sixers, with the Paul George signing, with the cap space available, with all this energy and excitement, they have the second best odds to win the championship this year behind the Boston Celtics. Some books have them slightly behind the Denver Nuggets out west. They're in the conversation. I think they've done a great job of getting themselves back there. I have the Eagles at 2. They're so close to being 1. The only reason they're not number 1 is because I'm watching the Phillies in real time be the best team in their league, even through injuries. I love what the Eagles have going on roster-wise. I love what Howie did through the draft. The Saquon addition, CGJ coming back, Devin White, all these guys. I cannot wait for football season to start in the Eagles. But the Phillies are number 1 because they're 56-29, and they've been the best team in baseball for the last 3 months or so. Sorry, let me grab my charger before my laptop dies during this spiel. That's my order. However, I think 1 and 2 are interchangeable at the moment, and I think team number 3 has put themselves into contention, which is exciting. That brings me to say this. It's a fantastic time to be doing this and to be a Philly sports fan. We haven't won a damn thing. I know that. We lost the World Series. We lost the Super Bowl. We lost an MLS Cup. We keep getting knocked out in the first or second round. Joel Embiid keeps getting injured. so on and so forth. We go home in Game 7 of the NLCS when we should be making our way to a back-to-back World Series appearance. Things haven't gone our way, but at the end of the day, I don't know. I'd have to look around and do more research outside of like the New York and LA teams who have 900 teams each. If there are cities as lucky as us, meaning to have the superstars in their city locked up long term, to be in contention for not one, not two, but maybe 3 titles in their own respective sports. Day in and day out, there's something exciting to talk about right now. We hated the Sixers 2 weeks ago. I'm ready to be hurt again. And not just false hope, not because, they went out and they got a couple role players that I like and maybe it can work around Embiid. No, because they went out and did what they said they were going to do and brought in a legitimate third star, possibly a second star on this team on any given night.
Yeah.
The Phillies continue to impress night in and night out. The Eagles, pound for pound, might have a top 2 roster in all the National Football League. It's just an exciting time, man. So all I can say is change this mindset and start getting excited no matter what happens coming up.
Yeah, no, I do agree, man. It's just like Paul George coming to Philadelphia, like being a destination for free agents, signing trade Turner a couple years ago, right? Bryce Harper, he kind of started the trend in a sense. But when you look at these teams, I think I do agree with you in the order. And I do think Phillies are just playing right now. They're going to play for a chance to win a championship sooner than the Eagles. Otherwise, it would probably be pretty equal for me. I think the Eagles are closer to number 1 than the Sixers are closer to number 2 for me, just because the Sixers, while I feel a lot better about the team, they are still fighting against history and the past and, all my skepticism. That is where the skepticism
the
comes
Sixers
in.
have maybe the biggest roadblock in front of them in another team than the Phillies or the Eagles do.
That's interesting. Right, that's interesting because, the first thing that I wanted to say, if they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, that's a huge accomplishment. That's almost like winning the championship. Like, it's not, but it almost is, man. Like, to get out of the second round for the first time in like fucking 20 years, it's almost like a championship. But to your point, it's interesting because the Celtics, yes, they are a powerhouse. It's hard to see anybody beating them. But the rest of the NBA, or specifically the Eastern Conference, is not as scary as like the NFL with what? Let's say
the Niners, the Chiefs.
The Niners, yeah, the Niners. Who I'm blanking here in the NFL. I got to get into NFL mode, man. I'm really blanking here.
In the NFC,
in the NFC, right?
I don't know. You got the Niners, the Lions, Dallas. The NFC is not all that strong at the moment.
Yeah, it's really
the AFC is pretty strong. I mean, you have the Rams at this point. I don't know what they're going to look like.
I guess the NFL is kind of similar in that sense because you got the Celtics and then you got the Chiefs, right? If you get to the Super Bowl, you might have to play Patrick Mahomes, which seems to be like a really tough task. I think when you look at baseball, I think that is the one thing. It's like there are teams, and we've seen the Diamondbacks get hot. Like that, there are things in baseball where I just feel like even if you're the better team, like the Phillies are the best team in the MLB. You just never know. Like, what if the Dodgers are on fire when you meet them in the postseason and everybody's crazy? Like, same thing could be for the Phillies, too. Like, don't get me wrong. And at the end of the day, if all things are equal, no team's on fire, I'll take the Phillies. But it's interesting in baseball. I feel like there are a few more teams there that can actually win.
We've made our living the last 2 postseason runs.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. But
to go back to this, Martian will have to join us for some turf talk and this NFL season, man, because I'm a hater, dog. I don't care. Get the Packers out of this conversation. I'm not. There are people high on the Packers, dog. They're high on Jordan Love. I'm not with it. I'm not a Jordan Love guy.
There's levels. Yeah.
And
even the Lions. I'm not going to hate on the Lions. The Lions should be good. But
they play this much defense.
We'll see, man. The Eagles, I don't know. I'm highly confident in the Birds this year, man. I think, like, them
No
getting,
longer.
you know, them falling apart last season almost gives me more confidence that they're going to come out here and dominate, honestly. So it's interesting. They're getting a lot of hate too. I saw top 10 offenses in certain.
I laughed at it. I laughed at that
Yeah, I
list.
mean,
That
whatever.
list is absolutely fucking atrocious. You know
That's
what? I'm
nuts.
glad you brought this up. This is how we'll wrap up the show. We'll get me fired up and then we'll
It's
kill it.
literally
Okay?
nuts.
Because this is the most ridiculous list I have ever maybe seen. Okay. This is NFL Game Day's top 10 offenses in 2024. So you have the San Francisco 49ers at 1. I'm not going to argue. I guess, right? We've seen how explosive they can be. CMC, Kittle, Debo. You know my thoughts on Brock Purdy. Like
Yeah.
anybody that has
Yeah.
Brock Purdy in their top 5 or 6 quarterback conversation, I can't have a serious conversation with. They're also moving on from Brandon Ayuk, so we'll see what that looks like. Apparently, but sure, that's 1. Kansas City 2. I don't get it. I get it. I do get it. It's the best quarterback in the world,
Mahomes and
the best tight end in the world. If we're talking offenses as a whole, the Kansas City Chiefs are not the number 2 offense in the NFL. They're the number 1 quarterback in the NFL, and in the biggest moments, he's the best player on the field. But how many weeks did Kansas City struggle offensively last year, Scotty? Where they could only score
most of the
16
season.
points, 20 points,
Yeah.
and they were in wild card contention at one point in time. They're not an overall offense. They are a generational talent at quarterback with a great play caller and the best tight end in the world. That's not the overall offense. Lions at 3, Rams at 4. Not going to hate. Bengals slotted at 5. That's the highlight of the story. Burrow coming back. I won't hate too much on it. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow is prolific. You lost Joe Mixon. I forget who they replaced him with. Is it Zach Moss maybe at running back? I don't know what their tight end situation is looking like. Their offensive line is iffy. So I get like the 3 in Burrow, Higgins, and Chase. It's very, very good. It's scary. Outside of that, whatever. The Dolphins, same thing. I mean, the Dolphins could probably be a little bit higher. Tua, Hill, Waddle, Mostert leading the league in touchdowns. A-Chain, they're explosive. They're fun. The Green Bay Packers are fucking 7th. 7th, brother. Because of who? So they add Josh Jacobs. Cool. Jordan Love. Jaden Reed. Christian Watson. Who am I missing that they have out there?
I mean, they got, they do. They have a bunch of like above average wide receivers. Like they have like a bunch of them, right? Like Dobbs, I think, is another one or something like that.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Romeo Dobbs. There
Romeo
you go.
Dobbs.
There's
like,
another.
But they're not AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Like, yeah, I don't understand a lot of this, man. Like top 10. I mean, they're top 3 offense in the NFL, dude. Like,
brother, I'll keep going. The Buffalo Bills are right behind them at number 8. The Buffalo Bills just lost Stephon Diggs and replaced them with nobody. So again,
Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis.
Yeah, great point. And then they have no rushing attack outside their quarterback. Like, you have a very good quarterback.
Is it Jalen Hurts hate? Is that what it is? Is that what we're looking at here?
The Houston Texans should be much higher than number 9 on this list.
I agree with that as well.
And then at number 10, you have the Indianapolis Colts, who have an unknown Anthony Richardson. I get the upside. I don't
know how closely I looked at this list.
Dog, you have teams. Let's go through this right now. You have the Green Bay Packers, who have Jordan Love. Hold on, waiting for this depth chart to officially come up so I don't get anything wrong here. You have Jordan Love. I know you signed Josh Jacobs in the offseason. You still have A.J. Dillon. That's cool. Your receivers are Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, and Jaden Reed, and you have Luke Musgrave as your tight end. That is somehow 7th on a list that does not include an offense with possibly the best offensive line in football. Jalen Hurts, 2 years removed from an MVP season. Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith. What? Like, even the Bengals, again, if we're talking trios, I do think Burrow's a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts at this point.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, or Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, and Devontae Smith. Like, this list is so far
And a better offensive
out
line.
of this world, bro. And I know it was probably created to just stir up certain fan bases like myself, but I don't understand it. I really don't. So,
Let me look here because I'm curious now. Like, were there any
you know
other
what really gets me
offenses
going,
left
man? Like,
off
I
of
was
here?
talking to Brock earlier, and we're having this conversation now. Like, this is a dude, or this is a person, whoever put out this list, that gets paid probably very nice money to do something they love, talking sports, and this is the shit you put out to the world. You
Was
get paid to do this.
was Miami on that list?
Yeah.
They were. What
They're
about
number
Baltimore?
6. They're number 6. Baltimore's not on that list. Nope.
Baltimore would be, I guess, the only other team that I would
I mean, I'm
argue.
going to tell you right now, the Houston Texans do not belong at fucking number 9.
I agree. Yeah, I would put them closer to top 5, man. Like CJ Stroud, but I don't know. It's interesting.
The Bills do not belong on this list with everything they lost and the lack of additions. The Chiefs do not belong at number 2. I know it's Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce. We're talking offenses. They struggled to score points for a majority of last year, regardless if they won the Super Bowl or not. Offenses, the list itself should not be there. Okay. The Colts and the fucking Packers are not on this list either. The Bengals are not number 5. It's just
The only
it's
thing I'll say about the Packers is if you're taking them off, who are we substituting them with, right? Like, so I guess you would move the Ravens and the Eagles in. Is that
yeah, I would move.
Ravens and Eagles?
I would slide the Texans up. I'd move everyone down. I'd slide the Eagles and the Ravens in. I'd
Even
slide 2 people out.
even Atlanta, man. Like, I'm not trying to size Atlanta up,
Right.
but they're not better than the Colts.
Right.
Kirk Cousins, why's the dude Bijan Robinson? Names are
Bijan
slipping my
Robinson,
mind in
yep.
the NFL
Drake
today. But
London.
yeah, I mean, they got a nice young squad. Kyle Pitts at tight end. Like, Kirk Cousins is actually a quarterback that can get their weapons the ball, so you're actually going to find out what they're about.
I mean,
But
and look, bro, I'm not even trolling when I say this. You know
are we
how I feel.
slicing Anthony Richardson up like this?
No,
Like, what the fuck
bro,
is that?
I'm not trying to hype this team up by any stretch of the imagination, but we know what the Cowboys can do offensively, like put up those numbers. They're not on this list either, but Anthony Richardson and Jordan Love led offenses are.
It's a great point. Like, obviously, we hate the Cowboys, but
Right.
it's a great point.
They're
They
not
would
on
be
this
more
list.
justifiable on this list than a couple of these teams, quite honestly. So that
And
is
I get
interesting,
it's
man.
2024. I get its projections, and it's not just going off of what's happened in the past. But like legitimately,
How do you look at the Eagles lineup and think
I know.
this? Like,
I know.
can't
How do
believe it.
you look at what the Buffalo Bills have lost and went through last year and say, you know what, they're a top 8 offense in the NFL?
Even if you believe that Jalen Hurts is a game manager, how are the Eagles not better than like
But
5 of these
if
teams?
Jalen Hurts is a game manager, what the fuck is Brock Purdy? Oh my
That's amazing. God. That's amazing, man. I can't wait to start Turf Talk, brother, because we are going to have a ton of shit to get into.
Get into it. Probably, I wouldn't say this Sunday with the holiday weekend, but starting next Sunday, we'll get into it. If we have to jam pack a couple episodes, maybe pre-record throughout the week and get stuff out there, we'll start to do that as well. But guys, again, another hour and 15-minute show. That's just how much is going on in Philly sports and how much conversation is being stirred up throughout the offseason. We're not even into Eagles training camp yet. The Sixers have a lot more to do to fill out the rest of their roster, and the Phillies are the furthest thing from healthy. And this is what we're putting out. So if you like the content, if you are new to the channel, I see over 80 people in here right now. Excuse me. Somehow I have something in my eye as I'm reading this or saying this. I see over 80 people in here right now. If you are new to the channel, if you're watching on Twitter, I saw, correct me if I'm wrong, Scotty, I saw a couple X comments pop up in the chat today. Not really sure how or who they decide pops up, but we do not get a majority of your comments from X, from Twitter, whatever you want to call it. So if you are watching live on there, if you're watching a replay version, do us a favor, head on over to the YouTube link specifically. It is the best spot, as you can see, with everybody else in the chat, to get your comments pulled up with us, be interactive with us, and just help us grow, obviously, because we are a little bit more focused on our YouTube channel than we are our Twitter page. So you'll be doing us a favor there, and we'll do you guys a favor in return. Like we said the other day, if you do subscribe and you are somewhat interactive, if we know you're out there, you get us to 200 in the next couple of weeks, 200 subscribers on the YouTube channel. We're gonna do a giveaway, and possibly the biggest one we've done here at DSM Media. So make sure to smash that subscribe button for myself, for Scotty, for DSM. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Have a great holiday weekend, and we'll be back with you guys next week.
Yes, sir. Peace, everybody.